Let's make a video. Shouldn't be that hard, right? Hi, friends. We're here in the library, which is still under construction. So no, you can't see the whole thing yet. But I thought we'd take some time and catch up a little bit, right? Because I'm like, I'm going to make a video. I'm going to make a video. And have I made a video? Here's your video. For those of you who don't know me or don't follow me on sprints, my name is Coda, and Coda means friend. I'm your BookTube bestie. Basically, I like to hang out with a bunch of booktubers. It's pretty much who I mainly hang out with these days. So, yeah, let's get started. It's been a busy month already for me. I've already been on vacation. I drove to Texas and back, went to see my little sister's new baby, and my little sister and my mom and my grandma was there visiting as well, from Nebraska. So that was all really, really fun. We tried to go to Schlitterbahn. For those of you who don't know, Schlitterbahn is like the biggest water park in the world. It's in New Braunfels. We chose to go on the July 4th weekend on a Saturday, and it was too busy. So we rode like 2 rides and then we got rained out. But it was great hanging out with my sister. So anyhow, let's talk about what I read during June. I was going to do a May and June wrap up since I haven't made any videos. That seemed really extensive. I think this is already going to be a long video as it is. So let's just stick with June. But we'll start with the ones that are rollovers from May, right? So the first book rolling over from May is Don't Fear the Reaper by Stephen Graham Jones. This is the second in the Indian Lake trilogy, which I am reading with Nicole from Dusty Book Sniffers. Also, Jean read the first one with us, and I think she's planning on catching up. Jean, are you doing this one soon? And then we haven't started the third one yet, but that's later. We haven't planned that one out yet. But we do plan to read the third one also. I had ambitiously put all 3 on my TBR for May because I wanted to read all horror in May, right? It's horror mayhem, which I don't participate in as far as the prompts go, but I do try to pay homage to certain events that are going on around BookTube, even though I'm not an active participant. So anyhow, the trilogy went on there. I didn't quite get finished with Don't Fear the Reaper, but I did end up finishing it. And I rated it 4.25 stars, I think it was. I had to downgrade it a little bit from 5. I love the book, don't get me wrong. It's even better than the first one. But I had to rate both of them lower than 5 stars just because I love The Only Good Indian so much when I first read it. And I haven't read something that kind of tops that or just is on par yet. These are close, though. I'm really digging Stephen Graham Jones. Also finished in June, Green Rider. So Green Rider is part of a huge buddy read over at Dusty Book Sniffers. Nicole and I are now calling it the Seriously Serious reading plans. So I think we're going to officially make the Seriously Serious reading group a thing. So quick story time. And speaking of story time, this all began because I found Sid from Storytime with Sid in MJ's from Reading This Life in her Discord, okay? And she was reading Wheel of Time. And she was reading it with Nicole from Dusty Book Sniffers. So this is how I found Nicole too. And I had all the books. And I was like, oh, I want to read those too. What better opportunity to read them with somebody? But they were like 3 books ahead of me. So I quickly blew through the first 2 books with my eyeballs and caught up with them. And then Sid ended up getting way ahead of us. Lots of you have heard this story several times from me and Nicole. So anyways, Sid got way ahead of us, and Nicole and I happened to stop in, I think it was book 5 in the middle. Not planned. We just both happened to stop around the same spot. And then a couple months later, after we'd gotten some other reading plans out of the way, we started communicating about it. We were like, you know, we should get back into it, but we should stick together. So we started doing sessions on her sprints on Thursdays and Sundays. That's for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere. But Nicole's in Australia. So in the Southern Hemisphere, it's actually Monday and Friday. See how I had to think about it? That she held sprints every week, right? So we started doing chunks of Wheel of Time, and we finished reading all of Wheel of Time. So anyhow, we decided that we were having so much fun doing it together that we needed to continue to read series together. And the next series we chose to read is the Green Rider series. It's a really long story to tell you that I read Green Rider during June, but it's important that you know that we chunk these out. So the seriously serious books don't always get read in a month. They are often carried over, and this was carried over from May. If you want more information about the seriously serious reading group, please join us over at Dusty Book Sniffers sprints on Thursdays and Sunday nights. Nicole also holds sprints on Tuesday nights, which is Wednesday morning over in the Southern Hemisphere. But it's the Thursday and Sunday nights that we do the buddy reading of the seriously serious books. And everybody's on board now. We've got lots of people joining us. It's not just me and Nicole reading series anymore. I should mention, these are not going to be in the order that I read them. Instead, I categorize them. So the next May carryover, I don't have a physical copy of because it was an ARC, and I read Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle. And I love this book. I was like, I need to read more Chuck Tingle. Turns out I have his first book because I have a ton of Abominable books from the Abominable Book Box. I get it every month. I've been doing it for over a year, and like many of us, I buy books way faster than I read them, right? So this is why I put myself on the Read What You Own challenge every year and ground myself from buying books. So Bury Your Gaze was perfect to carry over for June because I started it for Horror Mayhem, right? But it also counts for LGBTQ plus books, and I wanted to read as many LGBTQ plus books as possible in June, to honor Pride Month. I gave Bury Your Gaze 5 stars and immediately set out to read more Chuck Tingle. So now that we're done talking about the books that we carried over for May, let's talk about the books that I had on my June TBR, which you would have seen had I made a June TBR. As most of you know, TBR for me stands for to buddy read, right? So I did plan a bunch of buddy reads, and I do have a few books on here that were not buddy reads because I do have some art commitments as well. So the next book that I finished in June, which was a buddy read, was Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan. And this was a buddy read with Jean and with Nicole from Dusty Book Sniffers. This was a really good book. It was really easy to get along with, actually. So I'm looking forward to checking out some more of Amy Tan's work. Next on the June TBR that got finished, and this is stretching it because I actually finished it on the 2nd of July. I was just a little bit late, was the next in the Green Rider series, Writer's First Call, which should have been done on July 30th, but I got a little bit behind and I finished in the car on my way to Texas. Writer's First Call was not, in my opinion, quite as good as the first book, but I'm still excited to get into the next book. Also on the June TBR was an ARC called Special Delivery. Special Delivery was also a buddy read with Nicole over at Dusty Book Sniffers. Are you noticing a trend here? What can I say about this book? It was surprisingly super, super enjoyable. So I haven't read a ton of smut in the past, but I was asked to join Smutella a couple months back and read some smut with Vanessa over at Read with Dr. B and Bree at the Book Introvert. I will link them below. And ever since, I'm like, I should probably look into some more of this, and maybe I should look into some gay smut, right? Because that's just a little bit more my style, right? So I'm like, I'm going to read this. I don't remember who told us about it. If you're watching, please take credit down in the comments. Somebody was telling us on Sprints about Special Delivery. They had read it as an ARC and said it was good MM, and they weren't kidding. I mean, it was smutty, it was dirty, but it was hot. And it actually has a plot. It has a great plot. It's a straight to gay romance. And you forgive me because I don't know the names of all the tropes. But maybe like friends to lovers also. You guys help me out. Anyhow, it was really refreshing. And what I enjoyed most about this book was the open communication between the two main characters. It's just a really good example of how communication should be. It's obviously not always like that, but it was really refreshing to experience that with them. So I recommend this book. If you're into smut, if you're into gay romance, definitely check this book out. This is a debut novel. It's mid-length, 200 and some odd pages. Really fantastic. Can't wait to see more from this author. Okay, so the next category, I know you're like, wait, weren't we doing a TBR? Right, to buddy read. But I also read books for Pride that I didn't have buddy reads for. Like, typically when I make a TBR, I go through everybody else's TBR and then I comment and I'm like, hey, I have that book. Let's read that book. Always looking for people to read books that I have with so that I can cross them off my Read What You Won't challenge. Anyhow, I was like, look, we need to read more smut. We need to read LGBTQ plus this month. And I had purchased this book for Garbogus this year. But I'm like, why not do it now? I've got other books for Garbogus too, like way more than I could read in a month. I purchased a ton of books before I went on my book buying ban, in anticipation of events to come. Anyhow, the next book that I read is The Sluts by Dennis Cooper. Now, Dennis Cooper has quite a few novels out, and he's, I guess, most known for his series that includes Closer and Frisk. I think they might all be a little risque. This book is so much. But I just couldn't stop reading it. I could not stop reading this book. I felt like I was in a chat forum at like 14 or 15 years old, a chat forum I should not have been in, reading about things that I should not have known about, and then like murder and scandal and violence. And it's really hard to put down. Lots of content warnings. I'm not going to recommend this book to everybody. In fact, it's definitely not for people who can't handle graphic sexual horror. I would describe this as a horror book. It's not horrifying, but it's disturbing. It's the content, it's the storyline that makes it a horror book. I don't know. If you're into that and you can handle gratuitous male-on-male sex scenes, then, check this book out. Tell me what you think. I'm interested to hear what other people think about this book. Nicole and Jean are both reading this now, and I cannot wait to hear what they have to say. The next book that I read for June and for Pride was The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I've been meaning to check out TJ Klune. I got this in a free book bin, and I've just been meaning to read it. So it was a perfect opportunity with Pride Month to pick up this book and check out TJ Klune for the first time, because I've also never read TJ Klune. And I'm in love with this book. I'm so in love with this book. I need every TJ Klune book. I need them all. The next book that I read with Jean. And Jean and I read Camp Damascus by Chuck Tingle, because if you remember me saying, I read Bury Your Gaze and immediately was like, I need more Tingle in my life. So this is my abominable copy, and it has a little card in it. I don't know if there we go. Well, maybe not. Oh, every now and again. And it has a little note from the author in it. So I'm glad that I got to cross off an abominable book. And this was good. This was really good. I can't decide which one I like better. I rated them both 5 stars. What I like about Chuck Tingle is his horror is smart. I don't know how else to say it. His horror is smart. When I read Bury Your Gaze and I got to the part where you figure out what's going on, I was like, that's smart. That's brilliant. And so original. And with Camp Damascus, taking something like a conversion camp and putting a supernatural spin on it. Smart. Dude, I need more Chuck Tingle. Keep them coming, bro. The last book that I read for Pride, and this was actually late finishing too. I finished this one on the 3rd while I was on my road trip. This is Melissa by Alex Gino. My copy actually says George because I bought this before all the controversy over the title and before the title got changed officially. So my copy says George, but it is called Melissa now, and it was good. I like how it approached the subject of being trans from a middle grade perspective, and I loved all the Charlotte's Web references. At its heart, Melissa is really about just having the freedom to express yourself as who you are inside, and to be yourself. And George is good. Then there were the 2 books that I read to pay homage to June on the Range. June on the Range is an event created and hosted by Michael K. Vaughn and a slew of other co-hosts, including but not limited to Olly from CriminOlly and MJ from Reading This Life. I participated in it last year and I read Lonesome Dove. So I really wanted to read the sequel to Lonesome Dove because I enjoyed Lonesome Dove so much on audio, actually. And I did read Streets of Laredo in June. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I really think I just like Larry McMurtry's storytelling. I have to check out some more of his books. I had to knock it down a half a star because there was one scene where they dropped the M-bomb a lot in conversation. And although it was in context of character for the person who was saying it, it just was abrasive listening to it. So it did knock it down a little for that, but otherwise great soap opera storytelling, just like the first book. So the other book that I read for June on the Range was my very first Louis L'Amour, and that was The Quick and the Dead. I've seen the version of the movie that came out in the 90s with Sharon Stone a long time ago. I really liked it when I was a kid, so this was a good first choice for my Louis L'Amour. And you know, you get what you sign up for. You get a Western. It was fun. I had a good time with it. I rated it 4 point something stars. I'll have to look and post that here. And those are the 2 books that I read to pay homage to June on the Range. And I will link all of those people that I mentioned in the description. There's one last book that I read for June. It could have been called a carryover from May because I had intended to read it during Horror Mayhem because it's just a little snack. But I didn't put it in the carryover list because I didn't start it in May. So anyhow, I went ahead and I read it at the beginning of June just because it was a snack and I could cross it off, Read What You Own. And that book is Big Bad. And I really liked this book. It was super original take on a werewolf story. I don't want to say too much about it because it's short. Just pick it up. It's snack size. Takes maybe an hour or 2 to get through. I will be looking forward to more stories from Chandler Baker in the future. All right, that pretty much wraps up my wrap up for June. Since we're here together, and I'm so bad at doing this regularly, let's go ahead and talk about July TBR too. I mean, it is going to be the 15th by the time you watch this, probably, so it's a late TBR. But in all fairness, like I said, I usually build my TBR around other people's TBRs, so you might consistently get late TBRs, unless I'm planning on All right, so I go back to work on Monday, and I've been not working for several months. So the TBR is short. I'm not sure how much time I'm going to have to read like I have been reading these past few months. But there are some things we should talk about. So the first is the seriously serious books that will continue. So the first thing up on the July TBR is the continuation of Seriously Serious Reading Plans, which, as I've said before, is the continuation of the Green Rider series. So we will be starting and completing the third in the series, The High King's Tomb, this month over at Nicole's. So make sure to check out Dusty Book Sniffers. Again, in the description, I'll also link the spreadsheet down there that has all of our reading plans. And then we will also be starting the fourth in this series, Black Veil, before the month is out. This one will roll over into August, but we will be starting it. So here is the fourth book in the Green Rider series. Also, Tandem buddy reads this month. Okay, so we are now doubling up our series on Thursdays and Sundays, Fridays and Mondays for the Southern Hemisphere. This month we are starting the Poppy Wars trilogy over at Nicole's. So we will be reading the first Poppy Wars this month, and we'll be starting, and I think maybe even completing, the second one in the series before the month is out. So the Poppy War and the Dragon Republic are both on the TBR for July. Also on the TBR for July, another abominable book, so I can cross this off of Read What You Own. And this will be The Pale House Devil by Richard Kadrey. I'll be reading this with Danny from over at Danny Dabbles. And this is going to be my first buddy read with Danny, so I'm super duper excited about it. We are going to talk about it in an Instagram chat with each other. So I really look forward to both my first Danny buddy read and also reading this snack-sized book I get to cross off my Read What You Own challenge. Another book on the TBR and a buddy read with Nicole is an ARC. This is a backlisted ARC, so this book already came out, and I'll have to look up when it comes out and put it on the screen for you. This book is called Beyond the Bounds of Infinity. This is a collection of horror short stories by several authors, and I'm looking forward to diving into this and jacking up my NetGalley percentage, because we also have to work on that. And speaking of ARCs, the only book that I'm going to be reading for July that is not a buddy read is going to be I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. You know, I love Stephen Graham Jones, so what can I say? I'm really excited that I got approved for this ARC. I'm going to try to have it done before it comes out. It comes out on the 16th of July, which is Tuesday. And the final book on the TBR is a book that's been on the TBR, meaning to buddy read, don't forget. It's been on it keeps getting moved up. Like, so I think back in maybe April, Nicole and I had planned to read this, and it just keeps getting bumped up, and it's, you know, like I said, it's half of the month is over, so hopefully going to be able to squeeze in The Diary of Anne Frank this month as well, and that will be a buddy read with Nicole. All right. The only other thing we have to catch up on is the Read What You Own challenge. At this point, I'm just going to tell you that I've read 60. I do have a reel prepared for Instagram, so make sure you're following me on Instagram, and I will release that reel soon. All right, I guess that basically catches us up. So please like and subscribe if you haven't done that already. Please head over to Dusty Book Sniffers, like and subscribe there. Let me go ahead and give a shout out to Neva over at Reading with Neva, who joins us every Thursday night on Nicole's channel and also streams to her channel. Please subscribe to Neva. And let me also give a quick shout out to Katie. Katie and I might be doing sprints together soon. We need to work that out because we need new sprint times. So as soon as we get that worked out and I get a good flow with my work, I'll let all of you know. Follow me on all the places. In the meantime, follow my friends. Everybody mentioned should be linked in the video description below. If I mentioned you and you're not linked below as a creator, let me know. I'll fix it. Pretty sure everybody's linked below. All right. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and we'll see you later. In this seriously serious, did I say that right? The seriously serious reading in the series, fuck. The series serious.